listening to the first segment of our two-part series, The History and Medicinal Benefits of Chocolate with Susan Weed at Time Monk Radio. Hello, Susan. Welcome back to Time Monk Radio, and we are going to pick up where we left off last, talking about chocolate.
Oh, Gemini, I'm so glad to be here with you again. I've been talking about not just one of my favorite subjects, but a favorite subject of a great many people. I love this article, and you can learn more at the Archives of Internal Medicine, so this is not a junk food article here, and it's entitled, Can Chocolate Make You Thinner? Forget those images of bonbon-eating overweight people. A new study finds that regular chocolate eaters are thinner than those who don't eat chocolate. At the University of California in San Diego, 972 adults were questioned about their chocolate consumption, and participants averaged about 57 years old. About 68% were male, and they had an average body mass index of 28. Just as a reminder, 25 is considered, kind of the high end of ideal, so 28 is up there, and 30 is technically obese. These participants said that they exercised about 3.5 times a week. Overall, the participants ate chocolate about twice a week, and those who consumed chocolate more frequently had, indeed, lower body mass index than those who ate chocolate less often. No matter what variable the researchers looked at, the relationship between chocolate eating and lower body mass index remained very stable and significant. It is the frequency of chocolate consumption, not the amount, that is linked to being slimmer. The average body mass index in the sample of adults that we studied matches that of the U.S. general adult population. And the range was from 17 to 50. 17 is incredibly skinny. 50 is incredibly obese. Dark chocolate, higher in antioxidant flavonoid compounds, has been linked to improvements in blood pressure, insulin sensitivity, and cholesterol levels. What can we say? The data are remarkably consistent. The effects of chocolate are that it protects the cardiovascular system, it lowers blood pressure, it improves vascular reactivity, which is blood flow, and increases insulin sensitivity. That's a good thing. You want to be sensitive to insulin. Preliminary data is now suggesting potential benefits of chocolate for cognitive function, migraine prevention, and prevention of colon cancer as well. Aren't you glad you like chocolate? It's a great thing to like. This is from my book, New Menopausal Years, The Wise Woman Way. Want to keep your heart healthy? Eat chocolate. I know, it sounds too good to be true, doesn't it? But despite its reputation, chocolate is loaded with heart-healthy phytochemicals. First of all, cocoa has tretameters, and they curb oxidation of the blood vessels, especially in their walls, and short-circuit the buildup of atherosclerotic plaque. They also help keep the blood vessels relaxed, and that keeps the blood pressure down. Chocolate also contains flavonoids, and those flavonoids are more powerful than vitamin C in limiting oxidation of low-density lipoproteins. In fact, the flavonoids in chocolate protect all lipids in the blood from free radical damage, and that means less likelihood of a stroke or a heart attack. Procyanidins are kinds of flavonoids, and they actually work like mild aspirin to keep the blood thin and free-flowing. And yes, of course, there's lots of them in chocolate. Polyphenols, you've heard that word, polyphenols. There's polyphenols in green tea, there's polyphenols in red wine, and there's polyphenols in chocolate. Daily use of chocolate can prevent stroke by delaying blood clotting time. How much chocolate are we talking about here? 20 grams. That's about 3/4 of an ounce. A tiny amount of chocolate equals half a cup of green tea or 1 glass of red wine. Just the perfect amount to take on a daily basis. Chocolate also prevents blood platelet fragmentation, which occurs when platelets get sticky and this leads to strokes, and it boosts high-density lipoproteins. That's good cholesterol. Did you ever notice that chocolate comes in heart-shaped boxes? Well, there's a reason for that. It's because chocolate is really, really good for your heart. Now, you know, when you think about herbals and who's putting out herbals and where are you getting your herbal information from, one of the publishers that has been putting out remarkable books is National Geographic. You wouldn't think it, would you? And their herbals are, well, first of all, they're written by really wonderful people, Stephen Foster and Rebecca Johnson, in the desk reference to Nature's Medicine. If you can find it, it was in and then out of print very quickly, but it's a wonderful book. And they focus in on herbs, and they focus in on cocoa, Theobroma cacao. Centuries ago in Mesoamerica, they say, cocoa drinks were consumed to treat diarrhea, intestinal complaints, to calm the nerves, and as a mild stimulant. Sometimes cacao was given with the bark of a kind of rubber tree to cure infections and to counter lung congestion. They were sometimes mixed with maize and other herbs and used to alleviate fever, shortness of breath, and heart palpitations. The flowers from the cacao plant were used to treat fatigue. And cocoa butter, well, I don't have to tell you because cocoa butter is a wonderfully popular thing. Mesoamerican cultures used it to soothe burns, to heal cracked lips, to treat wounds, and to ease skin irritations. European herbals and medical manuals dating from the 16th to the 20th century list dozens and dozens of uses for cacao. It was given to convalescing patients to promote weight gain. It was administered as a nervous system stimulant. It was used to improve digestion and stimulate the kidneys. Preparations with cocoa were also recommended for anemia, mental fatigue, tuberculosis, bronchitis, fever, scorpion stings, as a fertility tonic, gout, kidney stones, inflammation, and just in general for real good health. I was just teaching at a big herbal conference down in North Carolina, and there was, of course, you know, most of the 1,200 people there were adults, but there were some younger people there as well. And one of the groups of younger women were having their herbal lesson by mixing the herbs with cocoa and butter and turning them into bonbons. And this, fortunately for me, this was going on in the place where I was staying. So I got to come in and taste their rose petal chocolate and their anise hyssop chocolate. And, of course, this was all good quality dark chocolate. It's so wonderful to see chocolate mixed with herbs and all of the wonderful things that it could do. Chocolate-coated medicines became popular in the 1800s, and they are still used today. The tradition of mixing some chocolate up with your herbs is still going strong and being passed on to the younger generations as well. In modern herbal medicine, as well as dipping our herbs or mixing our herbs in with chocolate, cocoa powder itself has been used to treat angina, that's chest pain, and high blood pressure. And, of course, cocoa and chocolate are very rich sources of antioxidants. We've been talking about that, haven't we? Cacao seeds contain more than 300 different chemical compounds. They are particularly rich in a caffeine sister, which is theobromine. I've heard people say, oh, well, chocolate has caffeine in it. Not exactly true. Theobromine has slightly different effects from caffeine. Let's think of it in this way. When the worker gets up in the morning, the worker has a cup of coffee to get mentally alert and to get physically strong so the worker can go to work. When the gentry gets up in the morning, the gentry drinks hot chocolate because it does not make your brain feel on fire or your body like it has to work. So we see that theobromine is really quite different from caffeine, although they are related. In fact, theobromine has a calming effect on the brain while it slightly magnifies the effect of the nervous system. Did we say chocolate was for lovers? Well, of course. Calm brain, sensitive nerves. How perfect. Now, both of these compounds, both caffeine and theobromine, are proven diuretics. So you may notice, if you consume them in quantity, that they are going to have that effect on you. Theobromine, much more than caffeine, tends to relax the smooth muscles in the bronchial passages, making breathing much easier. Caffeine can do this too. I remember Jeannie Rose, early in the 70s, really, trying to convince people that black tea was an herbal medicine. She said it was the thing that really helped her with her breathing. She had some breathing difficulties at that time. But theobromine in dark chocolate even more. It also relaxes the smooth muscles in the digestive tract, making everything move through the digestive tract much more smoothly and easily, and in the walls of the blood vessels. So once again, the walls of the blood vessels become a little slippery, things don't get stuck in there, and blood pressure goes down. Other compounds of cacao include two stimulants that raise blood sugar levels and slightly raise blood pressure. But these compounds tend to reduce depression and induce a slight sense of euphoria. It turns out that these warring compounds, the relaxing ones, win and leave us with that reduction of depression. Indeed, we think of the heartbroken person pacifying themselves with chocolate. Well, it works. That slight sense of euphoria is not to be tutored at all either. Cacao is so high in antioxidant compounds that there's some medical thinking that regular use can prevent or delay the onset of degenerative diseases, including cancer, heart disease, and possibly even dementia. In a study comparing the antioxidant activity of tea, red wine, and cocoa exhibited the highest activity. In fact, cocoa consumption has the same effect as aspirin in reducing platelet aggregation, and the same cardiovascular system benefits without the downside. And the downside of aspirin consumption to reduce risk of heart attack is it causes bleeding, and it can cause internal bleeding to the point of occasionally killing people, whereas I have never heard of chocolate causing internal bleeding or chocolate ever killing anyone, although I have heard people beg for death by chocolate. I just don't think it's ever really occurred. The word cacao is thought to have originated with the Olmec culture, the earliest civilization that occupied the lowland regions of the eastern Mexican Gulf. Cacao is the Europeanized spelling of the original word, which is thought to have been pronounced Ka-ka-wa, K-A-K-A-W-A. Over the centuries, cacao eventually became cocoa, And that was really confusing to me. I was wondering if cacao and cocoa were two different things. No, they are the same. The Mayans and the people of the Aztec culture gave a very similar name to that. The Aztec word was cacahuatl, and cocoa was considered sacred to all three cultures, the Olmecs, the Mayans, and the Aztecs. The Mayans said that the feathered serpent god gave cacao to the people after creating people from maize. Their cacao god was called Exchua, and it sounds like ecstasy, doesn't it? Yes, and when I first heard it, I thought, whoa, Exchua, of course, ecstasy. And Exchua was honored every spring by sacrifices. According to Aztec folklore, Quetzalcoatl discovered cacao inside a mountain. Cacao seeds were offered to the gods as hallowed sacrifices, and the seeds were sometimes covered in the blood of priests who ceremoniously cut themselves. You know that there are women scholars who believe that the priests cutting themselves and putting blood on things was, in essence, a kind of, shall we say, envy or a mining of menstrual blood, the most sacred blood we know. Before Europeans arrived in Mesoamerica in the 1500s, drinks made from cacao seeds were sacred. Ceremonial beverages, and only adult males, such as priests, government officials, and warriors, were allowed to consume chocolate. Oh, there's actually one other kind of person who got to drink chocolate, and that was sacrificial victims, because it was thought it would comfort and calm them prior to their execution. Cacao was too intoxicating and too valuable to allow women and children to have it in Mesoamerica. Well, not so in Europe, huh? Wow. When chocolate got taken to Europe, a whole other thing started to happen. A whole other way of looking at chocolate. And we could contrast it as no longer sacred, but now extremely secular. Real focus on what chocolate can do in terms of that, in opening up of the senses and the relaxing of the mind. All right? There was a lot of focus on the actual nutritional value of the chocolate. So rather than saying, oh, this is some sacred food brought here by the gods, we began to see it as a really highly nourishing food that had a lot of powerful uses, not just as a medicine, but to nourish people. In fact, chocolate is 18% protein. It's about 56% fat, 13.5% carbohydrate, 1.5% theobromine, 0.05% caffeine, tiny amount of caffeine, and about 5% of tannin. There is also theophylline and beta-phenethylamine, tyramine, tryptamine, serotonin, and cachetins. Very interesting constituents, amino acids, and proteins. So we start getting this idea that coffee is to kind of wake you up, and you wouldn't give it to the convalescing person, or the weak person, or the person who has digestive problems. And still today, we think of it in that way. We wouldn't say to someone, oh dear, you seem overwrought, let me give you a cup of coffee. We think, oh no, the coffee would make them much more overwrought. But we might say, let me give you a cup of hot chocolate. Isn't that a wonderful memory? The memory of sitting and having hot chocolate, right? Because of chocolate's great nutritional value, it became a commodity in the Catholic world, especially the Catholic world of Spain. Why was that? Well, liquids do not break a fast. Liquidium non fragigrit jejunum. And thus, drinking hot chocolate didn't break the fast. It could be used as a nutritional substitute during fasting periods. And this made it a vital beverage, first in Catholic Spain and then eventually in Catholic Italy. Once the Spaniards brought chocolate back from Mexico at the start of the 16th century, it remained an exclusively Spanish phenomenon for the next 100 years, thanks to Spain's monopoly on trade with the New World. And thus we had a very strong sense in that period of chocolate as being part of the Spanish identity. First, as a fasting drink for those involved with the Catholic religion, but soon it did indeed become quite secular and made its way into the court and became an actual status symbol. And of course, inevitably from there, became a standard feature of the Spanish courtly style, which in the 17th century, before Versailles, was the trendsetter for the rest of aristocratic Europe. Chocolate represented rococo elegance. It was the drink of the aristocracy, and it became as much a status symbol as the French language, the snuff box, and the fan. Aristocratic society preferred to drink chocolate for breakfast, ideally. It was served in the boudoir, in bed, if at all possible. Breakfast chocolate. What an indifferent thing. Breakfast chocolate is fluid, lazy, and languid. If coffee shakes the drinker awake for the workday that lies ahead, chocolate creates an intermediary state between lying down and sitting up. Oh, yes, indeed. Morning chocolate in the boudoir was a very popular motif in much of the art of the time. So, chocolate is a Catholic, and then perhaps we say that coffee is a Protestant. That work ethic as opposed to the let's give ourselves what we need here, according to an old belief, and a belief that kind of came up as chocolate became more popular. Coffee was an aphrodisiac. People seek chocolate to be fortified in order to perform certain duties, as a prudish end of the 17th century text euphemistically put it. Thus, chocolate is, the opposite of coffee, because we don't think of coffee as an aphrodisiac. We don't say, oh, darling, sweetheart, how about a little coffee and go to bed? No, but chocolate, oh, yes, indeed. Coffee is anti-corporeal and anti-erotic, whereas chocolate puts us in our bodies and definitely causes things to happen in the brain. Common wisdom has it that chocolate gives to the mind but takes from the body, and that chocolate does just the opposite. It nourishes the body. It nourishes one's potency, and it is definitely seen during these centuries as being against the asceticism and the taking away from oneself that was so common in the Protestant religions of the time. I love this quote from a wonderful book called Aphrodisiaca, and it says, "Chocolate is to linger over. Like a harem dancer, it fixes your attention. Like a brilliant music, it tantalizes you. Like a well-crafted mystery, chocolate draws you in. Like a floral scent wafting on a warm breeze, chocolate teases your finer senses. Like ecstatic sex on crisp linens on a sunny spring day, fine chocolate makes you want more." And that was written by Chris Kilham, the author of Psyche Delicacies. Oh, indeed, chocolate is one of the best of the psychedelicacies. Now, I have just been going on and on about chocolate, but I wonder if you have a chocolate story to share, Gemini.
I don't really. I can't say that I love chocolate compared to most people. It's not one of my favorite things. Shockingly.
And does that cover the spectrum of chocolate, from milk chocolate to dark chocolate?
I will occasionally indulge in really dark chocolate with a glass of red wine, but I'd probably prefer white chocolate if I had to just eat it by itself.
The difficulty with white chocolate is it isn't really chocolate.
There you go.
Any of the health benefits from so-called white chocolate. It is the cocoa butter, but that's all it is the cocoa butter.
And I do like the dark chocolate with a glass of red wine occasionally, and I do think they complement each other nicely, depending on the wine.
They can too. What kinds of wines would you recommend?
Like a port. It's not really a wine. It was good. Maybe a really dark Malbec, something along those lines. Something drier and dark.
Right, like maybe an elderberry wine or...
Ooh, yes, that would be good too.
Something really, really rich and something that can stand up to the chocolate, huh?
Yes, definitely.
Ooh! Amazing stuff, right? I love this quote. "The brain on chocolate is the brain in love." And it was said that one of the reasons that Casanova was so successful was that he took chocolate to women.
Oh, that makes sense.
Right, you think about it, because, again, this was during a time when chocolate was not as common. Today we think of, oh, yeah, chocolate, we think of chocolate, Swiss chocolate and German chocolate and Dutch chocolate and Belgium chocolate and African chocolate. We just chocolate. But no, this was a plant that grew only in a very small area in Mesoamerica and was kind of guarded, as I said. It was really thought of as being, this really important sacred plant, and you didn't, let it out of your sight. So what a long road chocolate has come to the wonderful place where we can all have access to chocolate now. And how also marvelous that we have so many choices in chocolate. Like, I can go out and I can buy organic chocolate. And I can not only buy organic chocolate, but I can buy organic fair trade chocolate, which means that the farmer has been in on what's going on and is getting a fair trade, is getting a fair market value for what their chocolate that they're selling. And with
I like having those options if I have to buy it.
Yeah. If you have to buy, well, most of us are not living where we can make our own chocolate.
No.
But we are going to have to buy it for sure.
Well, I assume you're not talking about like typical Hershey's and things like that. You're talking about the really rich, deep chocolates that are out there.
The more
that are more natural.
Or cocoa in it, the greater the effect. But notice that the studies don't specify.
Okay.
When the studies are asking people how much chocolate they eat, they don't ask them, did you buy organic fair trade chocolate? And so the association of chocolate and health holds no matter what kind of chocolate you eat. But yes, it is generally recognized and said that the thicker the chocolate, the more health benefits you'll get from it.
Now, what's your absolute favorite?
Oh, minus. I have a lot of favorites. I am one of those people who really do like chocolate.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, if there isn't chocolate on the menu, I don't even want to eat there. Like, I really, really like chocolate. I like chocolate a lot. I consider it almost another food group. But we should probably pick this conversation up again next week because we have gone on over our time here, haven't we?
We have, and why don't we do that next week? We'll continue this wonderful and very sensuous talk on chocolate.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Susan.
Thank you, Gemini.
This completes the first segment of our two-part series, The History and Medicinal Benefits of Chocolate, with Susan Weed at Time Monk Radio.